All right, everybody, we're back here for the end of May. I guess this is your May process video, following up on the drawing of Kelsier. I thought I would try something a little bit different with the format this time, so I've pulled away from recording the screen, and I'm just throwing up the screen capture here of what it records on in Fresco. And then I can output that it's not a screen capture, it's a time-lapse process video. And so I thought maybe it would be a little bit easier to see what I'm doing here, and just we can try it this way, and you can let me know if you like it or wish you could see the interface again and have the stuff jumping around. But I thought this way it just sort of locks in on the painting, and it's just a little bit cleaner. So we'll take a look at it. Same process as usual. It just kind of like got my drawing there, and then I went in and started doing the underpainting, building and blocking stuff in. And what I wanted to talk about today, touch on primarily with this process in regards to how I approached this, was I wanted to go through and just talk about blurring or just working on blocking. And so one of the skills or things that you can employ to help yourself when you're trying to draw or paint something is you can squint your eyes. And what that does is it eliminates some of the visual noise and simplifies what you're looking at for yourself, so that your brain can process the forms and the shapes and tones and all of the elements in a much simpler format. Because in this stage of the process, when you're doing blocking, you're not getting into details, you're just trying to get the structure. So by squinting your eyes, you can easily figure out, you can start to see sort of just general planes and shapes. So if I'm squinting my eyes and looking at myself in the camera right now, I can kind of see, like, the lighting right now is fairly even. So I have a little bit of shadow framing my face and some shadow under here, and then shadow on the outside of my nose, right? So looking at that, I can start to break down the structures of things. There'd be like a general sort of tonal, kind of similar tone running around here on my face, maybe a little bit in my sunken cheeks here, my skinny cheeks, and then similar here, right? And then this is all fairly similar. And this is irrespective of color and hue and temperature of the paint. This is just in relationship to tone. And you know, it's a bit tricky because working on this piece, in all these pieces that I'm working on, I'm working straight into color. So I'm solving a lot of problems all at once, and that can be fairly challenging. Painting is, in my opinion, painting is an extension of drawing, and I've talked about this before. The essential skills to help you get to a stage where you can paint stuff are drawing with line, still life drawing just objects and items in general, and understanding the principles of tone and structure, and that comes with practicing drawing in black and white. So most higher end drawing schools, you'll start off with very simple projects where you're basically learning how to take, like, for example, any medium, but let's just say charcoal or graphite, and you're doing color study bars where you'll have, like, start off with white and black, and then you'll do stages. Like, let's say you break it down into 6 stages of white, light gray, a little bit darker gray, all the way to black. And you'll try to draw those so that when you squint your eyes, there's a consistent gradation from one block to the next. And then you'll do one with a larger number of divisions, and those should be very consistent. These are the kinds of, I guess, almost torturous processes that you have to go through in your early stages of art study, but it's very necessary. It helps you start to understand tone, which then you can apply those understandings to the actual practice of drawing or painting something. In these paintings, because I don't want to go through a whole bunch of hoops, I'm just going straight into painting. This would be closer to what you would call, I think it's the proper term is impasto, so painting wet on wet, so you'd be applying paint to the canvas and painting right into it. A little bit of mixing on the palette and then bringing it onto the canvas, but mostly mixing and painting right into just taking colors and painting right into them on the canvas. So it's a little bit different. I mean, of course, this is digital, so the processes are a little different. But basically, just getting back to what I want to start or focus on. If you're having a hard time drawing something and having it feel accurate, in this case, like I've always said, I want the likeness to come through in these faces that I'm painting. I want it to look like the people that I'm painting. And so in order to achieve that, I need to have the structure accurate. And if you're having a hard time getting that structure accurate, a really good exercise, like I said, is squinting your eyes. And that can help you just start to see the form for its base components. And you're not so much worried about, like, you know, what is the line on this cheek or beside the nose, or, you know, how do the wrinkles on the forehead on that person look. Those are all sort of the minutiae of the details which you get into in the rendering, which, you know, if you look back at my Valenluca paintings from a few months ago, you can see those. And I broke that down very succinctly into drawing, flats, rendering, and it was quite a lengthy series of videos. And I'll maybe, you know what, I'll do that again down the road, but I think for the sake of this piece, I thought it would be good just to go drawing, painting. But to get the sort of general, an accurate likeness of a person, the most important thing is the underlying structure. It's not so much the details on the surface, it's more of the underlying structure of the face that will bring forward the life and the likeness of the person that you're looking at. And it would apply as well to still lifes or animals if you're drawing something that's not a person. Same rules will apply. You're gonna believe a 2D image based on the tones and the structure of stuff. So it's the same kind of principle. If I'm looking out at, if I want to paint a shed that's out in my yard, if I'm looking out at that shed, if I squint my eyes, my brain will start to break it down into similar or simple tones, and I'll forget that there's, like, you know, a few extra tones on the side of the door and stuff like that, but I can just start to break out the bigger chunks of shapes, and then I can go back in and refine that stuff. The same can apply for the color. So in this case, of course, I'm painting in color, and I can use a filter in my brain if I squint my eyes and I'm looking at a specific area, and I do this for the generalization of the face to get the general shapes, but I also do it if I'm having a hard time in a specific area of the portrait. If I'm having a hard time on that one area, I can also do the same thing, squint my eyes, and then just focus on that one area and look at the color relationships between them. And I literally do, when I'm doing that, I'll literally have my image zoomed in to the area that I'm looking at, and my reference image zoomed in, and then I'll look back and forth between the two with my eyes squinted. So I'll actually paint with my eyes squinted. You know, I'll open them to select a new color, and then I'll squint again, and that just allows me to, it eliminates some of the noise, the visual noise that my brain can kind of get challenged or interrupted by, and it allows me to just kind of focus down on what I'm trying to achieve, which in that case would be sort of color relationships. And sometimes, I mean, this is if you're trying to do like something more photorealistic. If you're trying to, you can also just, you know, use it as a baseline and then throw in whatever colors you want, which I sometimes do. You'll see in my paintings, I'll sometimes throw in some crazy colors in there. Those aren't like just random crazy colors or necessarily super abstract. If you look at a face, you'll see, and I've talked about this before, you'll see color in different aspects. So there's reds in my face here. I know the camera's here, so sorry, I'm looking at the screen, so I'm not really looking at you guys. It's kind of back and forth, but There's red here, right? So if you were to do sort of a general color mapping of my face, this is more like red or warms, right? This is kind of cool blues, greens in here, which is weird because I have kind of reddish facial hair, but in a color sense, this would be more of a cool area in here, even down in here, right? And as I've said before, part of the reason why is because of the lighting that is being cast onto me. So it's actually natural lighting. I'm facing east right now, and the sun is facing that direction. So I'm not getting direct sunlight, it's just reflected light, which is kind of coming from the sky, which is a blue light coming down, and then there's a bit of a warm light from up here from the light in my house onto my balding head. But this creates sort of a interesting color relationships, because I've got this warm light coming down here, and that will cast a cool shadow down here. The blue reflected light from the sky will kind of wash out the reds, and will sort of create this more so like kind of a cooler overall color palette to my face. I mean, partly it's because I'm super white, so there's not a lot of color coming. As it, you know, if I was a person of color, I would have a lot more kind of warmth and different colors kind of falling in there. But the color relationships right now and the lighting that I'm sitting in is fairly subtle. So it's kind of cool, and then going to a bit of warms here, and then this is all kind of cool or yellowish, right? Yellowy, you know, cool up there. And then warm up here from the incandescent bulb, and then sort of cool down here. And you know, if you squint your eyes and you look at my face right now, maybe that'll come across a little bit more. Maybe not, because I'm small in the screen here. But anyways, getting back to my painting, you can see now, this is I get to the stage of the project where I start to reevaluate my accuracy in terms of my painting. So you just saw the image flickering back and forth there. It seems super fast, but that's because this is accelerated. This time lapse is shorter amount of time than the painting is actually accomplished in. But I would be basically like flicking back and forth between just turning the layer on and off. So I'd be turning my painting layer off to see the photograph underneath, and then making adjustments on my painting, and then looking back at it. And of course, as I've said, and I keep complete transparency in this process, I'm leveraging the power of the digital tools that I have to basically, you know, look at what I've got, look at the photo like 1-to-1, and if it's off, I'm adjusting stuff, and that's helping me get the likeness a lot quicker than if I was drawing it freehand. I don't have any of I sold the 2 portraits that I did. I did a couple of acrylic analog paintings of characters over the course of the last year. And doing those, I recognize that I can achieve a pretty good likeness using analog tools. So the digital tool is not a crutch, it's just a tool, just like everything else. It's like I always say, these are just tools, and you learn to use them, which is why you notice I just posted the May Photoshop file for my Water Garden Up Sojourn and Up patrons, and that in that Photoshop file, notice there's not a lot of layers, and I typically tend to work on few layers. In this case, this file has quite a few more, because I've got these coins floating around Kelsier, the character in the image, and I've got those coins on separate layers. I've got sort of, I brought in some Photoshop images that I was overlaying my paintings and then manipulating just to expedite the process. Again, leveraging digital tools, it creates a quicker completion of things, takes some of the heavy lifting out of doing the process. This is what you want to use digital tools for. If you're working professionally, that's why in major studios people work digitally, because they need to get stuff done fast, because they're on a real tight time constraint for conceptual art and things of that nature. And so that's the power and the beauty of digital. Of course, there's something that gets lost, and I've talked about that before, but analog has a beauty to it that digital sometimes loses. But anyways, I hope that that made sense about sort of the blocking and squinting. And if you have any questions, please hit me up on Patreon and just ask me straight on there. Or you can reach me on my social media. Thanks very much, everybody. I'll catch up to you later.